even in 100,000 million kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, accept and maintain it. May we unfold the meaning of the Tathagata's truth, the unsurpassed, profound, and wondrous Dharma is rarely met with even in 100,000 million kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, accept and maintain it. May we unfold the meaning of the Tathagata's truth, the unsurpassed, profound, and wondrous Dharma is rarely met with even in 100,000 million kalpas. Now we can see and hear it, accept and maintain it. May we unfold the meaning of the Tathagata's truth.
So good morning to everybody.
Morning.
I apologize. I've got this big banner across my screen telling me my internet is unstable again. It's always a worry. So again, if I disappear for a minute, I'll be back. I had a teacher in the 8th grade that just ruined me for doing stuff like this. She once said to me after a foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds, that Emerson quote. A absolute overthinker. So she kind of ruined me for this, because I went to bed last night having written, something to say today, and got up this morning and realized how judgmental it sounded. First thing was so judgmental. And that I was trying to find a definition of joy, when joy is many things, not one thing. But anyway, so I'm going to try again. I heard a story, I've heard this story, that a certain teacher sat in front of a assembly, had to give a Dharma talk, and sat in front of assembly and basically told them, you are going to die. And the joke didn't go down very well. We've all heard the story of the Buddha and how Prince Siddhartha, after having been kept in the palace by his father, who we presume is trying to avoid the prophesied fate of his son to become a holy man, keeps him in the palace full of distractions and entertainment and all the comforts that he could ever need, so that all the well, we won't say lies, but all of the things that would keep him from questioning anything in life because everything is provided, every whim is satisfied. But as the prince grew older, he decided, that he needed to know more. And with his servant Chana, went outside of the walls of the palace and discovered that there are such things as sickness, old age, and death. And that anybody who has one of these limited, delicate bodies will not be able to avoid experiencing those things. In a sense, I've been, live in a palace, and a palace, built of delusion that all things are, can be made permanent in some way, that things won't be lost, that age won't catch up, and all of these things that are part of the delusion of everyday life, why we can make such small things, such insignificant things important, and cause all kinds of drama for ourselves and other people over things that are fleeting and won't matter next week. Wisdom, I think, and I tried not to look this up. Wisdom, I think, is us, is when you understand the reality of existence, when we understand and act, as the Eightfold Path instructs us, based on what really is. And what really is impermanence, change, and interdependence, among other things. And it's hard to figure out, or hard for me to figure out, how to define joy as if it can be defined in those terms. If everything is fleeting, if the reality is that we're gonna die, if the reality is that nothing, everything is empty, that this identity that I've created for myself is based on delusion, period. That I, just like everything else in the universe, am ever changing and impermanent. What does joy mean? Where does joy fit into that? And maybe all I have is that question. I understand, I think, or what I'm feeling right now is that joy has almost nothing to do with me. Joy is this existence that somehow, in whatever way that is necessary at this particular moment in time, finds harmony with the universe. If I go back to the cliffside, hanging there, the joy in that precarious moment, which is every moment, is becoming aware of that fruit. It's being in awe of that powerful tiger, dangerous and threatening as it is, above, and that extreme drop below, and the sky and the clouds, and being in that moment, and being able to, with this mind that is wrapped up in ego and delusion, to either create suffering out of that or to find that joy in that, the preciousness of that moment, beyond the fear, beyond the loss, beyond the not knowing what's going to happen next. So that's where I came to this morning. Yesterday, I had the nerve to talk about bucket lists. And forgive me if I offend anybody, because that's not what I mean. I don't have a bucket list. I've never been able to make one. And I know about the cute movie and all that. And my understanding of the bucket list is that you make this, you write down all the things you want to do before you die and do your best to make them happen. I always wonder, why do we have to do that? You make a list of something that you have some idea about how it's going to feel, how it might make you feel, how wonderful you've been told it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. There really isn't, to find some enjoyment and find some excitement somewhere in some fantasy that we have about, and that sounds a little judgmental, but some idea of what we have is out there that might bring us some happiness, some joy, some fleeting moment of excitement, and I said something about princes do that. Yeah, princes do that. Princes and princesses. And, I always think, what if you drop this bucket list and you make all this effort to make it happen before you die, and you get to do it and it's disappointing? I think that's what would happen with me. I think of, I don't, like I said, I don't really have a bucket list, but I got a chance a year ago, was it a couple of years ago? I can't remember, it seems so long ago, to go to France, someplace I'd never been. I always thought I wanted to go and see what it was like, but it wasn't really like a big bucket list kind of concept for me. I just went. And I went to see the Eiffel Tower, something I'd heard about, something that sounded a bit exciting. I wasn't going to go up on it because I'm afraid of heights, so it wasn't going to happen anyway. But you get there, I got there, And, you know, there's this big plaza, you know, it's getting ready to rain, you know, because you never think of going to the Eiffel Tower and it's raining and it's bad weather or whatever, but it happened to be. And it was all cordoned off in this plexiglass sort of, I guess, barrier, you know, because they were, you know, because of the terrorism threats and all that kind of stuff. It cost $40 to go in the place. And it was rainy and windy, and it came up a really gusty windstorm while I was there. People's umbrellas were breaking, and you know, people were running to get shelter and get inside or get out the plaza and that kind of thing. There were these this row of African men with their souvenirs sitting out, which was strange, you know, that I became aware of. You know, it's like, why are they selling that stuff? You know, it's all this cheap, you know, souvenir kind of things, and wondering whether they actually made money from them. And what are you doing? Why are you here? What happened when, you know, what in your life made you, you know, and all these questions come up that aren't consistent with that ideal bucket list, Eiffel Tower fantasy that I could have made up. Looking for joy in a moment that is nothing but expectation. So I always wonder, you know, what that bucket list means, what that little moment of joy that we make up, that I can make up, is about. Rather than, you know, I feel like you know, this is the point that we have, you know, when we say that life is this finite thing, and finding joy in it. Joy is an everyday thing. It's not a bucket list thing. It's something that comes with awareness of every moment, and every moment can include those bucket list things. I'm not saying that they shouldn't, yeah, not at all, you know, but to kind of leapfrog over the everyday is to be that prince in the palace, you know, with this expectation of, you know, exciting, wonderful things happen every day, you know, and that those exciting, wonderful things are joy, or the only source of joy, and missing maybe the things that are the joy that's happening right now, because I'm dreaming of something else and not aware. Dreaming of some out off that cliff and not aware of what the reality is and of what is being given to me right now. And something else came up for me about joy, and it had to do, what's the quote from that? Yeah. We say it every day. It's like, did I write it down? Oh, I did. It says, when joy doesn't mean that we feel good all the time. Light and dark oppose each other like front and back foot walking. In that phrase from Sandokai, you know, it tweaks something in my mind a little bit. The process of doing this practice, and of life, period, and of cultivating wisdom and cultivating our lives on the Eightfold Path, is that front and back foot walking, of that juxtaposition and the working together of the light and the dark. Joy arises out of our dealing with our suffering. Joy arises out of us trying to transcend that suffering through our practice. And I think, or I would like to think, that sitting on the cushion and taking that backward step and dropping body and mind, as Siddhartha did, it brings us closer to that joy. It brings us into that joy because it's going beyond what feels good. You know, joy feels good, but joy is not happy. Joy is when the harmony of being with all beings and is, I don't know, happens. It's wonderful to have what you want. It's wonderful to experience something that makes you excited and makes your heart race and tastes good and, is beautiful. It's wonderful, all those things. But it's also wonderful to be Tenzo. It's also wonderful to feel the joy of ringing that bell, instead of fussing about it. It's sort of, you go out in the cold and feel the winter on your face, and feel that aliveness, feel that excitement. That's not exactly excitement. Feel that joy in that slightly uncomfortable but bracing cold, and to sound the bell and know that your signal is received, that connection has been made with whoever receives that sound. And that's not as exciting as, jumping out of an airplane, going parachuting, or maybe I don't know, taking a trip around the world, which I am not saying you should not do. That's not what I'm saying at all. But the deep joy for me kind of comes with making that connection. When it's not all about me, when I can't possibly be disappointed except for my own resistance and self self-importance and my own suffering created by all of that gets in the way of just ringing that bell, of just feeding those people, because all you got to do is make the food and set it down in front of them and walk away. And the sense of not having done it for your own aggrandizement or your own satisfaction, but the sense that you have moved in the world according to what is needed right there at that time, and that harmony was created in that action in some way. This is kind of off the, I don't know, it's kind of off the subject, but it's spinning for me. We're gonna die. And when we die, we are gone. This identity, this thing is gone. Even if they write your name in 1,000 books, even if like Siddhartha, we're sitting here talking and speaking that name, not even knowing whether I'm really, pronouncing it right even. We're saying a name. That person, those words, whatever ideas he had are long gone. And whatever ideas of this person remains because it's someone else's faulty memory of what he might have been, what he might have said. Even someone as close as Katagiri, what he said, what he did is only a memory. At this point, we're making it up. And that person is gone. What's left is their intention and their hard to say what it is that's left, but something that we feel and something that we're trying to continue, even though it's just becoming dissolving more and more every day. But this is what's here. This is what's here. And I think that's why the Buddha said in the very end, my words are not going to matter. I'm just leaving you this practice for you to find and for you to take where we're going to take it. So whatever's on the bucket list, before we die, that's fine. But understanding that no matter what, this is the only moment we have. This is the bucket list. This moment is what's on the bucket list, regardless of what we plan. So that's my jumbled thinking for this morning, because I had to back off my my judgmental ideas, some of which you probably still heard are still there. I'm working on it. So I'll stop there before I make more trouble for myself. Go ahead and hear what you all have to say. I hope I haven't mumbled on for too long, but just to hear what you all have to say. Help me out here.
I have a
Hi.
announcement. Kyoku's not feeling quite well today, with a little cold, so she's resting. So I'm taking her place in the role that she usually does. So my first response is, no, I don't think you did too much mumbling at all. So just to let you know about that, I think it was just right, for me at least. Why don't we ask people for comments from, why don't we start from the people at home? Yes, Rushin.
My older brother retired in 2019, and as part of his retirement, he drove all across the United States visiting friends, and he came and visited me, and he suggested that we go out and visit my cousin Robert in the middle of South Dakota, which is not something that I would have thought about doing, but we did that together. And while I'm out there, I'm thinking, you know, we used to visit the family farm in the middle of South Dakota, and occasionally we drive down and see the Badlands. And the Badlands made a big impression on me when I was a kid, like 10 years old. And I thought, I'm out here this far, I should really go look at the Badlands before I die. So kind of a bucket list thing. So I went out to the Badlands, and there's not that many hiking trails in the Badlands. So I thought, well, I'll hike all of them in a couple of days, and then I'll meet my brother in Custer, and we'll go on the bison tour. So the hiking trails in the Badlands are interesting because it's obvious that the National Park Service doesn't want you hiking very much amongst the Badlands. So what the hikings are like the meadows next to the structures. And there's a plant that grows that I haven't been able to figure out what it is, but it's just ubiquitous in this meadow. And this one hike, it's the only place I've ever hiked where there's warnings about rattlesnakes. So I thought, well, I'll hike early in the morning so the snakes won't be out. So I go out and I walk this trail, and there's this plant that grows, and in some places it grows quite tall, like 7 feet tall. So you don't see anything. You're just on this narrow path, and this plant is on each side of you, and it goes on that way for like 3/4 of a mile before the meadow opens up and the structures are off to the one side and there's more meadows off to the other side. So I hike that and I come back, and then I'm coming back and I see this couple that are older couple, and they ask me, does it go on like this? Because they're not seeing anything and they're really disappointed. They're just, because they're saying, we don't want to go on if it's going to be like this the whole time. I said, no, it opens up. He says, well, yeah, this is a real disappointment so far. And then I walk a little bit further and I find this younger couple, and they're saying, oh, this is fantastic. This is wonderful. What an incredible landscape this is. And this is all scripted. Could I have any more polar opposite reactions to the same environment? One's disappointed because of expectations. One doesn't have the expectations, and they're having kind of a delight in the way that things are. So I think that has a lot to do with what goes on.
Thank you, Rushin. Anyone else at home? Anyone here in residence? Might have to turn around.
Mm.
Yes, Tendru? Tendru?
Thank you for your teaching.
We'd maybe need to have you get closer to your mic, Tendru. There's some kind of audio
Is this better?
thing we're having. Yeah, that's better.
Okay. I realize what I've been doing with joy is making it more about noticing the nice things in my everyday life, which it is. You talk about not wanting to define joy too tightly, but what you said about it's the whole tiger situation and being with a very difficult situation and finding some peace around that situation, that's the deeper level, and that's a deeper practice for me, and a much harder one, of course, than noticing the bright blue sky today and the it's 29 below wind chill, but the sun is beautiful, making shadows everywhere. That kind of joy, which is easy for me, but the other kind is a subtle and more powerful. So I don't have a question in there, but I'm really glad you're talking about it. I need to hear more of that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think what Yushin said about expectation and what you just said about picking and choosing, kind of picking and choosing what to define as a joy, as beautiful, as this or that, instead of just being with what is and the reality of what is and seeing what really is, what we haven't noticed that's beautiful, with and walking out into some place without the expectation of what it's going to be like. One couple had expectations, yes, about what it's going to be like, and didn't enjoy it. But they were seeing the same things as the ones who didn't have those expectations, which is odd. That's all in our brains, it's all in our heads. What can be joyful and not. So, yeah.
You on?
All right. So this is it's seemingly a small joy, but it feels like a big joy to me that before we had these buildings, we would eat in the residence and around the round table in the residence, and after the meal we would all do dishes together. And then for a while, it seems like, and maybe because it's just the staff here now and there's not a big group, but for a while it's been that there were a couple of dishwashers assigned during a session or a retreat. And so then we didn't have that group group activity of just going in the kitchen and cleaning up. And suddenly it's appeared again. After we eat, all of us go into the kitchen and do what we need to do to clean up. And I must say, I am so joyful to just go in the kitchen and be with a group of people, socially distanced and masked, of course, but just taking care of this mundane thing of washing the dishes and cleaning the kitchen after the meal. But I'll tell one thing. When I was in college, I was in India for 6 months, and a group of us went to go see the Taj Mahal, which is one of those landmark places that people like to go. And it ended up that the nighttime we were there going to see the Taj Mahal, it was a no moon night. So we couldn't see anything. That people like to go see the Taj Mahal when there's a full moon. And somehow I really enjoyed it. It was like, it was pitch black, but there was still something spectacular in the darkness about being at the Taj Mahal. So I don't know. So, but I think the things are what you make them, and I guess letting go of the expectations is important. Dokai said to me once, and I don't know if it always works out for him, but he says, I try not to have expectations because when I do or expect things of people, I get disappointed. And I think that's a good guide.
Anyone else? Yeah.
So I've just been thinking about Prince Siddhartha's story. And something that's really interesting me about his story is that, just his circumstances of being a prince and like living in a palace and like having someone like setting up his life, full of like pleasures and fun things and exciting things. And yet so I guess my question is, how do we understand that, like the choices that he made? Because I know that, I didn't start focusing on practice for those reasons. Personally, I started focusing on practice because of the stuff I didn't like, right? Because, I wanted to solve problems so I'm curious what you think and what other people think about what that means, that that he chose to give all that up. And I'm just wondering, was it just that he was just really curious, just super curious about life? And I don't know, maybe that's it. If so, I think that's very cool. I mean, I think that's amazing to be so curious that you'd walk away from, because I'm pretty sure, I'm almost 100% sure that if I was in his circumstances, I would not have made the choices that he did, I think. Anyway, curious what others' thoughts are about that.
Well, anything we can say about that story is interpretation, speculation, whatever. But when it comes to my mind, I think, we're talking about a being of intelligence, and we are all, have our level of intelligence and curiosity. A being who saw a wall and wanted to know what was beyond it. And I think we all do at some point, and sometimes we act and sometimes we don't. And that's not a judgment on anybody. This is how we are, and he happened to have some circumstances where he could do that. I don't know, I can't really answer that question for Prince Siddhartha, but for myself, he also got to see when he walked past those walls the possibility of freedom in the example of a holy man that he came across, piquing yet more curiosity. Maybe the same kind of curiosity that we all had when we saw, you know, other possibilities. I don't know. We all read into that story what we read into it. I think that for myself at least, you know, I go in and out of that palace, and at some point the palace walls are going to crumble anyway, because time will tell. You know, walls are going to crumble, and I'm going to be sitting outside those walls with my expectations and aching bones. So it's, I don't know. You can read that into that story a lot of things, a lot of things. And if you're anything like me, you know, you'll read into it something today, and then a few years down the road, it'll sound, something else will sound a little different for you. So, yeah, I don't know.
Anybody want to respond? Try to make another response to Aaron's question? Okay, Aaron, I guess you're just going to have to make a koan for a while. Okay. Can you see the time for me, Akio? 3 after 11. We could probably do one more question, perhaps, or comment, if we have one. Yeah, Aaron. Eorin. Don't forget to unmute.
I did, yeah, thank you. I'm probably going to misremember this. We're reading, maybe somebody can help, but we're reading a book on Boundless Heart right now. And I think in that book, the author quoted, I think, the Buddha saying that be joyful even amongst people who aren't joyful. Yeah, I think I have that right. But, and it kind of makes it, I guess it, I've been thinking about that. It seems kind of impolite to be all joyful if you know there's suffering out there. And of course, there's a lot of suffering out there. And just how you kind of fit, you know, I wonder why you said that, or if you could comment on that.
Well, being joyful when someone else is not. There's fake joyful and there's real joy in being with people. And that doesn't mean that you're not recognizing, you know, what pain they're in. But your, well, the way I feel, your sort of emphasizing or that pain by, in many ways, trying to, I don't know, what are we trying to do when we are empathetic? Empathy does not mean that you wallow with someone. It means that you recognize and know what that feels like, and really know what it feels like to be in that person's shoes. But not that you reinforce the suffering. And that doesn't mean that you're walking around smiling and happy when people are crying. But maybe the joy is to just be able to provide a little comfort, a little inkling that there's a possibility to get through for that person, whether we know how to fix it or not. It's not even about fixing it, but it's about showing that person that there is that this isn't permanent, that there is a there is support and care for them, regardless of the situation. I don't know exactly what that expression means, but there's joy in being with someone, even when they are not, they're not so happy themselves. There is joy in being able to help someone or being able to support someone, even with just your presence. And that doesn't mean it looks like it doesn't mean you're putting on a show. It doesn't mean that you're pretending that everything's okay. But it's more an inner joy, I think, to be with someone who is in pain. And the joy is not, someone said the word subtle. It's more subtle than just, I don't know. It has more to do than with just smiles and happiness. I can't get to it right now, but I can't get to it. I might not ever get to it. Maybe somebody else. Dokai? I don't know.
Well, as I was thinking, Chimyo and Erin, sometimes I'll have private conversations with people and they might tell me about some kind of deep suffering they're having. And I have a tendency or proclivity to say, yeah, I know what you're talking about. This is what happened. Let me tell you about mine, something like that. And I'm not sure that's a really helpful way to go about helping someone else. It's more that you just you don't get like you use the word swallow, but like consumed or taken in by that person's sorrow. Just remain equanimous and listen. And sometimes that's, I think, the more helpful thing. But for me, it's kind of going against the stream. It's like I have to work to just be present and not try to, get my own counseling session in there somehow or another. So it's a practice, I think. And so I think that's what she means by empathetic joy. It means joy and grief are closely connected in my life. So we can understand the grief, but we don't have to become grief-stricken at hearing at another person's sorrows. So I think that's the most helpful way to move along. On that note, I think I'd like to maybe end our session for today so we can keep to our schedule. I did want to make one last announcement. I see Birgit, you are on screen today. Hello. Now, if I remember correctly, Birgit, I haven't seen you for many, many years, but you're from Stuttgart, Germany. No, not Stuttgart. Which one? Or did it move?
Cologne. Well,
Cologne. That's right, Cologne.
I was from Cologne when I was around, and now I live in Bonn, which is close by. And if I may make a comment to Chimyo, who just said that she didn't like to go to Paris and see the Eiffel Tower. I just would like to invite you to come to Cologne and see the cathedral because it's a great place to be, and I guess you won't be disappointed.
To be honest, I hate this. I use that, but I wasn't disappointed. It was like a real experience for me. What I felt was that if somebody else had been here on that, been there on that particular day, it might have been disappointing for them. But there was a lot of things going on that I didn't expect. And just like going to the Taj Mahal on a moonlit light as opposed to a dark night, it's a totally different experience. So I'm not saying I didn't like it. You know, I might want to go when it's not raining and not wet, but you know, and I'd love to see Cologne, really.
It's a great place. And I'm studying, just briefly, I'm studying French and I'm struggling studying French. It's not that easy. And so after I listen to you and your experience with the Eiffel Tower, I guess I won't go to Paris.
Oh, no, that's not what I did. No. Yeah, maybe you should.
Don't
You should
worry,
go
don't
and
worry,
see
no,
it.
don't
Yeah.
worry, don't worry, I'm kidding. And
Okay, well,
Well,
thank you very
thank
much,
you.
Birgit. It's nice to see your face again. And Birgit has visited Hokyoji on multiple occasions in the quite distant past. That might mean 7 years. I'm not sure. I don't know the number, but you know, it's a few. It's a handful. So, anyway, it's nice to see your face again and for you to be joining us. Thank you very much. Wanted to let other people know, because I'm sure no one else here is familiar with your name and
yeah.
presence. So, okay. Okay, why don't we, Kim, would you like to lead us in a closing chant?
May our intention equally penetrate every being and place with the true merit of Buddha's way. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it.
Jimmy, if you'd like to do 3 bows, they could be standing if you like, or whatever you want. We'll formally ring out.